Trolls. One of the most used monsters across fantasy media, you would be hard pressed to find a big fantasy franchise that doesn't have their own version of a troll. So what makes the Dungeons & Dragons trolls stand out? How are they any different from the trolls we see elsewhere? And how can we insert trolls into our D&D campaigns and use them effectively in combat encounters? Hi everyone, I'm Nazir North, welcome to the channel. In this video we are going to do an assessment of trolls in D&D 5th edition. We are going to cover what they are and their nature, how to use them, and how to build engaging and challenging combat encounters around them. At the end of the video we'll also do a little bit of homebrewing to come up with a new legendary troll variant. So stick around until the end if you're interested in seeing that. Trolls originally come from Scandinavian folklore, where they were said to live in mountains and caves in small family groups. While they weren't always described as evil, they aren't exactly friendly to humans either. Stories tell of them eating people or livestock, and even the oldest tales describe them being turned to stone by the sun. A well-known example of that in modern media is the trolls that are presented in The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. In these stories, trolls tend to vary in size and appearance depending on the story being told. Sometimes they are small and impish, while sometimes they are huge, with little distinction between a troll and, say, something like a giant, with the terms being used interchangeably. And sometimes the trolls are described as looking almost human. In D&D, trolls take on many of the features attributed to them from folklore, but they also have a few unique features of their own, most notably the ability to regenerate from almost any injury. Let's have a run through what the 5th edition monster manual tells us about your standard troll. They are uncivilized and primarily motivated by food, although they do also value treasure. While they are described as having no real society of their own, they are known to interact with some other creatures, including orcs, ogres, hags, and giants. Trolls will sometimes even work for one or more of these creatures, normally in exchange for food. However, we are told that even when trolls do work with others, they're difficult to control, often acting of their own accord and not following orders. Trolls have incredibly powerful regenerative abilities. They are able to recover from almost any wound, even decapitation. The monster manual adds a variant rule to the troll page, allowing severed limbs to move and attack on their own. After a battle, a troll can then pick those limbs up and reattach them to its body, where they will heal back in. Fire or acid damage will halt a troll's regeneration, and the troll knows this. So it is said that they will specifically target any creatures that try and use fire or acid against them. The final piece of lore we get on trolls in the monster manual is that their healing abilities can cause them to mutate. For example, regrowing multiple heads or limbs from a stump, or taking on the properties of the creatures that it feeds upon. Remember that for later, as that is going to be relevant for the homebrew we're going to create at the end of the video. Moving on to the troll's stat block in 5e, it's pretty basic, but let's do a quick run through it. The troll is large in size and is considered to be a giant by type, with the giant language. Although the Forgotten Realms wiki does state that they don't share any direct relation to true giants. Their alignment is chaotic evil, which makes sense with what we've been told in the lore section about them just wanting to do their own thing and not being very good followers. The troll has some decent defensive stats with an armor class of 15 and 84 hit points. It's got a standard walking speed of 30 feet. On ability scores, Constitution is the standout score here with 20, and Strength is going to be its main melee stat. Mental ability scores for the troll are below average, but not terribly low. They can be presented as a little dull and lumbering, but they are still smart enough to form strategies and tactics, and to act intelligently in combat, whether to take down their prey or to defend themselves and escape with their life if need be. The troll then has a small bonus to perception and 60 feet of dark vision, which is standard for a lot of monsters. On traits, it has keen smell for advantage on perception checks that rely on smell, and its signature regeneration ability. This heals the troll for 10 hit points at the start of its turn, as long as it hasn't taken fire or acid damage since its last turn. In fact, if the troll hasn't taken fire or acid damage, it doesn't even die when it reaches 0 hit points. It just keeps going and regenerates some of its hit points back. That being said, this temporary invincibility isn't quite as powerful as it looks on paper, as pretty much every single level 1 character will start with a torch, which, as per the rules in the player's handbook, can be used as a melee weapon to deal 1 fire damage. So in a pinch, any character is going to be able to shut down that regeneration pretty easily. Plus, for that ranged fire option, any wizard or sorcerer in the party is very likely to have the firebolt cantrip. For its actions, the troll has a simple 3-hit multi-attack with bite and a claw. The claw does a little bit more damage on a hit. Overall, this puts the troll at a challenge rating of 5. As an initial assessment of the troll as a CR5 monster, it is a little bit underwhelming. The key feature, its regeneration, is the only thing there that makes it unique, and it's not particularly strong. It's only going to give the troll a maximum of 10 hit points per round, which is way below the damage output of even a level 1 party. And that regeneration is completely blocked by fire or acid damage, which any party with a spellcaster is probably likely to have, without them even thinking about the troll's weaknesses. A tier 1 wizard, for example, is probably going to have Firebolt as their standard go-to damage dealing spell. When you take away that regeneration feature, the troll is just an extremely generic monster, just like your standard ogre, for example. But enough complaining. What can we actually do to make your standard troll more effective in combat? What strategies and tactics can we employ as Dungeon Masters to turn the troll into a real challenge? First of all, let's have a think about the environment. As a melee-only monster with an average movement speed, the troll is going to fare better in an enclosed space. Out in the open, they are going to be very vulnerable to ranged attacks. In fact, the thing that the troll probably needs to look out for the most is Firebolt or Fireball, which a wizard is likely to use from long range. Further to that point of trying to mitigate the fire damage, heavy rain could help with this, putting out campfires and torches nearby. Or the troll could even be fighting in a waterlogged area like a swamp, where natural non-magical fire sources are going to be limited. Putting all of that together, I think a good lair for the troll would actually be some kind of ruined or abandoned building, perhaps a church whose roof has fallen in and collapsed, leaving it open to the rain. Maybe even the church could be on a floodplain or being taken over by a swamp, leaving pools of water all over the place. And of course, having dark vision, the troll is always going to prefer to fight at night. In terms of tactical decisions that the troll can take in combat within the round of initiative, the troll's choices are pretty limited. It's going to want to use environmental cover to avoid ranged attacks when it can, and it's probably going to want to focus all 3 parts of its multi-attack on one creature at a time to take them down, and that one creature is likely to be the one that is the source of fire damage, for example your wizard. It may even rush straight past the fighter or the paladin to get to the wizard who's been casting Firebolt, and then unleash all 3 attacks just on them. If other party members are blocking the troll's path, it can use its high strength to shove them out of the way, or as it's a large creature, just jump over them. You could also make the case that trolls are smart enough to use weapons. So if you wanted your troll to have a bit more of a damage boost, maybe give it something like a great club or a maul, or maybe even a mace and a shield for a small AC boost as well. Next, let's talk about allies. While a solo troll could be an interesting mini boss fight for a low level party, they aren't going to be able to hold their own in combat after tier 1 play, so they are going to need other allies on the battlefield. We already know that they work with orcs, ogres, hags and other giants, so that is a great place to start. Most of those creature types can fill gaps where a troll has a weakness, such as providing ranged attacks from an orc with thrown javelins, or some spellcasting support from a hag. When fighting with a group of monsters, I see the troll's role as the berserker, the one that rushes into the front lines and attacks wildly at whatever creature it can get within range of. Then while the party are distracted with the troll, the orcs and other monsters can move around to the party's flanks and close in. although the monster manual just gives us that one basic troll stat block, we actually have 5 additional variants that were added in later official books for 5th edition. Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes introduced the Dire Troll, Rot Troll, Spirit Troll, and the Venom Troll, all of which were also reprinted in the Monsters of the Multiverse book. Then finally there is an Ice Troll in the Rime of the Frost Maiden adventure book. I'm not going to go through all of the variants in detail, but I do want to give a particular shout out to the Ice Troll, as the Ice Troll has a cold aura trait which extinguishes flames nearby, a really useful ability that synergizes well with the Troll's regeneration. Alright, and the last part for this video, let's do some homebrewing. Remember that earlier the Monster Manual told us that trolls can take on the traits of creatures that they eat. Well, let's imagine a troll that got trapped underground, and has been feeding only on the denizens of the Underdark, the drow, the dwegar, and giant spiders. This is what I've come up with. I've called it the Deep Troll. It has the same armor class as your basic troll, but about double the hit points, so it's far more durable. As this troll has been eating spiders, it now has a climbing speed and the spider climb trait, giving the troll some much needed mobility. Its ability scores are slightly improved, mainly on the mental side, taking on some of those ability scores from the drow that it's been feeding on. I've also added in a stealth proficiency. Combined with the climbing speed, I see this troll as a stalker, crawling on the ceiling above, waiting for the right moment to strike at its prey. Much like the denizens of the Underdark, it then has a dark vision range extended out to 120 feet, plus Undercommon as an additional language. On traits, it still has all of those core troll features there, but it also gains Fey ancestry as well as some legendary resistances. I've then given it another unique trait, which is Sunlight Weakness. This combines sunlight sensitivity, which grants disadvantage on attack rolls and perception checks while in sunlight, with that trait that we see in fantasy media and originates in those Scandinavian myths, that if the troll stands outside in sunlight for too long, it turns to stone. So that's another weakness there of a creature that the players can try and exploit if they have the opportunity to do so. For actions, it retains its multi-attack, but it now also has a longbow with ammunition coated in drow poison. As this creature has been hunting and preying on drow, it makes sense that it would get its hands on some of that drow poison. However, a troll's hands would be far too big to make use of a dainty elvish crossbow. So instead, I picture this troll having made and crafted its own longbow, maybe from the bones of some underdark creature, perhaps from a rib, for example. The troll's bite then also has an additional effect with a disease that can be transmitted to its prey. I've called this light glare disease, which gives a severe aversion to light, resulting in disadvantage on attacks and dex saves if the creature is standing in or nearby light. As I am all about giving monsters more action options and making them more action oriented, this troll can hide as a bonus action, and it can use its reaction to grapple or to steal a weapon from a melee attacker. For that move, I imagine this troll as having sticky web-like hands that it can use to both climb and grab objects off other creatures. Onto legendary actions. It has your 2 basic ones that a lot of legendary creatures will have, a standard attack where it can use a claw attack, and a movement action allowing it to move off turn. And then as its last legendary action, it also gets some drow spell casting with the darkness spell. The unique twist here is that while concentrating on darkness, the troll also gains the ability to see in magical darkness. So a bit like the Devil's Sight Eldritch Invocation, and that just lasts for the duration of the spell. Overall, that brings this troll to a challenge rating of 9. This is a troll variant which could actually hold its own as a solo monster against an adventuring party, using stealth and darkness to target its foes carefully. I also imagine it in combat a little bit like a spider, not necessarily killing its foes on the spot, but using either poison to put them to sleep or its claws to knock them out, and then dragging its prey back to its lair to eat later on. Narratively, this can also give you a sensible way to avoid a TPK if a fight against the troll isn't going particularly well. Instead, the party then have a second chance to escape from the troll's lair. If you want to get hold of this monster to use in your own campaign, check out the link to Reddit in the description below. And before we finish up, I have a small announcement, and that is that I finally launched my own Patreon account. This isn't just to show support for the channel, but this is also going to become a full library of my own homebrew that will include monsters, maps, rule sets, and other things you've seen on my videos, plus a ton of other homebrew content that I've been working on in the background. So check out the links below if you're interested. That's all for this one. Cheers everyone, thank you for watching, I'll see you in the next video.